The pain hit me like a fist to the chest. I was standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing my coffee mug, when everything inside me seized up. My left arm went numb. The mug slipped from my fingers and shattered against the porcelain. I gripped the counter's edge, gasping, trying to pull air into lungs that suddenly felt like they were wrapped in barbed wire. The room tilted. I needed to sit down. I needed help. My phone was on the table, 10 feet away. It might as well have been 10 miles. I reached for it anyway. Each step felt like wading through concrete. My vision blurred at the edges, dark spots creeping in. I grabbed the phone, fingers trembling so badly, I nearly dropped it twice. Who do you call when your chest is being crushed and you can't breathe? I should have called 911. I know that now. But in that moment, gasping and terrified, my thumb found my daughter's name instead. Because some part of me, the stubborn, hopeful part that refuses to die no matter how much evidence piles up against it, still believed that when your mother is dying, you answer the phone. It rang and rang. "Come on, Jessica," I whispered. "Please." Voicemail. I tried again. My chest was a vice tightening with each second. The kitchen swam in and out of focus. Voicemail again. I called my son, Michael. Straight to voicemail. He'd probably let it go on purpose. He always did when he saw my name. The phone clattered onto the table. I couldn't hold it anymore. I sagged into the chair, head in my hands, trying to remember what they'd taught us in that senior center health class. Breathe slowly, stay calm, don't panic. But I was alone. 63 years old, in a house too big for one person, clutching my chest and wondering if this was how it ended. The doorbell rang. I couldn't get up, couldn't call out. But then I heard a key in the lock, the same key I'd given to my pharmacy's delivery service 6 months ago when they started bringing my blood pressure medication to my door. "Mrs. Patterson?" A woman's voice. "It's Rosa, from Greenfield Pharmacy. I have your prescription." I tried to answer. Only a wheeze came out, footsteps in the hallway. Then Rosa was there, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She took one look at me and her face went pale. Oh my God. She dropped the pharmacy bag and rushed over. "What's happening? Are you having chest pain?" I nodded. She already had her phone out. "I'm calling an ambulance. Don't move. Just breathe." "Can you breathe?" "Can't. Reach. My kids." I managed. "Don't worry about that right now. The paramedics are coming. Just stay with me, okay? Look at me, Mrs. Patterson. You're going to be fine." Her hand found mine. Warm, steady, real. The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. Rosa rode with me to the hospital, her hand never leaving mine even as the EMTs worked around us. She was the one who stayed in the emergency room while they ran tests and hooked me up to machines that beeped and hummed. She was the one who called my daughter and son, using the contacts in my phone. "They said they'd come as soon as they could," Rosa told me quietly, setting my phone on the bedside tray. As soon as they could, which meant not now. Not immediately. Not the way you'd expect someone to rush to the hospital when their mother's heart had tried to quit. "Thank you," I whispered. "For staying." Rosa squeezed my hand. "Of course." The diagnosis came 3 hours later, acute coronary syndrome. Not a full heart attack, the cardiologist said, but close. Too close. They wanted to keep me overnight for observation. Rosa stayed until visiting hours ended. She brought me water, adjusted my pillows, made sure the nurses knew I was allergic to sulfa drugs. She did all the things a daughter should have done. My actual daughter arrived the next morning. I was sitting up in bed, picking at hospital eggs, when Jessica swept into the room like she was doing me a favor by showing up. She wore designer sunglasses pushed up on her head and carried a Prada bag I knew cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Mom." She kissed the air beside my cheek. "You scared me." I wanted to ask why she hadn't answered my calls, why it had taken her 16 hours to get here. But I was too tired to fight. "I'm okay," I said instead. "Thank God." I was in the middle of a pitch meeting when some pharmacy lady called me. I couldn't just leave. You understand, right? She didn't wait for an answer. She was already checking her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "The doctor says I can go home this afternoon," I told her. "Oh," That's great. She glanced up briefly, then back to her phone. Do you need me to drive you? Because I have a client lunch at 2, but I could maybe. Rosa said she'd take me. Rosa? The woman from the pharmacy, the one who called you. She found me yesterday. Jessica's eyebrows rose. That's nice of her, I guess. Kind of above and beyond for a delivery person. She said it like Rosa had overstepped somehow, like compassion was inappropriate when it came from someone who wasn't family. Michael showed up an hour later. My son, 39 years old, wearing a golf shirt, and the expression of someone being inconvenienced. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. You look fine, he said. I am, mostly. So they're discharging you? This afternoon. Good. That's good. He shifted his weight. Listen, Mom, I can't stay long. Tiffany's got me scheduled for back-to-back meetings all day. But I wanted to check in. Tiffany, his wife, the one who'd made it clear 3 Christmases ago that hosting family dinners was too stressful and maybe we should all just do our own thing from now on. I appreciate you coming, I said quietly. He nodded. Of course. You're my mom. The words sounded hollow, like something he'd rehearsed on the drive over. Jessica was typing again. Hey, Mom. While we're all here, Michael and I were talking, and we wanted to run something by you. The shift in her tone made my chest tighten again. This was why they'd come. Not to see how I was doing, not to hold my hand or bring me flowers or ask if I was scared. We think it might be time to talk about the house, Jessica continued. You're getting older, and yesterday proved you really shouldn't be living alone. It's too much space for one person anyway. Michael picked up where she left off, like they'd planned this. We were thinking you could downsize, move into one of those nice senior communities. They have activities, medical staff on site, people your age. You mean assisted living? Not necessarily, Jessica said quickly. Just something smaller. Easier. And honestly, Mom, the house is worth a lot right now. The market's insane. You could sell, get a great price, and have plenty left over after you find a place. There it was. The real reason for this visit. My house, the 3-bedroom colonial my late husband and I had bought 40 years ago, where we'd raised these 2 children, where I'd nursed Tom through his final illness, where every room held memories they were now trying to price and sell. I'm not ready to leave my home, I said. Michael sighed. Mom, be realistic. What if this happens again? What if you have another episode and there's no pharmacy lady around to save you? Her name is Rosa. Whatever. The point is, you can't keep doing this. Living alone, refusing help, being stubborn. Something needs to change. Jessica leaned forward, her voice going soft in that manipulative way I'd learned to recognize. We're worried about you, Mom. We just want what's best. What's best? As if my children, who hadn't bothered to answer the phone when I needed them most, suddenly had my best interests at heart. I'll think about it, I said. It was easier than fighting. Easier than pointing out that neither of them had offered to let me move in with them. Easier than asking why selling my house seemed like a better solution than one of them checking on me more than twice a year. They left soon after. Jessica had her lunch. Michael had his meetings. I was discharged at 3, and Rosa picked me up in her ancient Honda with a bouquet of carnations from the grocery store. How are you feeling? She asked, as I buckled in. Tired. That's normal. Your body's been through a lot. She pulled out of the parking lot carefully, driving like I was made of glass. Do you have someone staying with you tonight? Family? I almost laughed. No. My kids think I should sell my house and move into a home for old people instead. Rosa was quiet for a moment. That's your decision. No one else's. They're just worried about the property value. Then they're idiots. She said it matter-of-factly, without malice. You almost died yesterday, and they're talking about real estate? I looked out the window. You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it to be nice. I'm saying it because it's true. She glanced over at me. Mrs. Patterson? I see a lot of people on my routes. I deliver medications to folks who don't have anyone checking on them. I know what loneliness looks like. And I know what bad children look like too. They're not bad. They're just busy. Busy is forgetting to call on your birthday. Busy is not making it to Sunday dinner. Busy isn't ignoring your mother's phone calls when she's having a heart attack. We drove in silence the rest of the way. When Rosa pulled up to my house, she insisted on walking me inside, checking that everything was in order, making sure I had food in the fridge. "I'll stop by tomorrow with your refill," she said at the door. "And maybe the day after that too, just to check on you." "You don't have to do that." "I know," she smiled. "But I'm going to anyway." The next few weeks passed slowly. My body healed. My heart rate stabilized. The cardiologist was pleased with my progress. Rosa came by 3 times a week, always with some excuse. A medication delivery, groceries she'd accidentally bought too much of, a plant she thought would look nice in my kitchen window. We started having coffee together. She told me about her daughter in California, about her late husband, who'd died in a car accident 8 years ago, about the garden she was trying to grow in her tiny backyard. I told her things I hadn't told my own children, about how Tom and I used to dance in this kitchen, about the fear that kept me up at night, not of dying, but of dying alone, about how invisible I felt in my own kids' lives. "You're not invisible to me," Rosa said simply. Jessica called once during those weeks. A quick check-in. "How are you feeling? Any more chest pains? Have you thought about the house?" Always the house. Michael sent a text. "Hope you're doing better." T says, "Hi." 2 months after my incident, Jessica showed up unannounced on a Saturday morning. She had papers with her, printouts from real estate websites. "I did some research," she said, spreading them across my kitchen table. "These are active listings in your area. Look at these prices, Mom. Your house could easily go for $600,000, maybe more." "I told you, I'm not selling." "But why?" She looked genuinely confused. "What are you holding on to? It's just a house. Just a house. Just the place where I'd built a life. Just the last connection I had to the man I'd loved for 38 years. It's my home," I said. "You're being sentimental and impractical." Jessica's voice took on an edge. "What happens when you have another heart attack? When you can't manage the stairs anymore? When you need round-the-clock care? Then I'll figure it out. With what money? Your savings won't last forever. And the medical bills from last month are paid. I have insurance." "Okay, but long-term care is expensive, Mom. If you sell now, while you're healthy enough to make decisions, you can set yourself up properly. Otherwise," she trailed off, letting the implication hang, "otherwise you'll be a burden. Otherwise we'll have to deal with it." "I need to think," I said. Jessica gathered her papers, frustration evident in every movement. "Fine, think. But don't wait too long. The market won't stay hot forever." After she left, I sat at the table for a long time, staring at my coffee mug, at the crack in the ceiling Tom had always meant to fix, at the window where I'd watched my children play in the backyard, back when they still wanted to spend time with me. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Jess told me you're still being stubborn about the house. We need to talk. We need to talk. Not, how are you feeling? Not, I miss you. Just another demand for my time and my property." I picked up the phone and made a call. "Mrs. Patterson?" Rosa answered on the second ring. "Everything okay? Can you come over? I need to ask you something." She arrived 20 minutes later with a bag of pastries from the bakery downtown. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Jessica had spread her real estate listings an hour earlier. "I want to give you my house," I said. Rosa's hand froze halfway to her coffee cup. "What?" "I'm going to put it in your name. The deed, everything. I want you to have it. Mrs. Patterson. Eleanor. Please, just call me Eleanor." "Eleanor." She set down her cup carefully. "You can't do that." "Why not? It's my house." "Because it's too much. Because I'm just your pharmacy delivery person. Because your children—" "My children," I interrupted, "didn't answer the phone when I was dying. They didn't sit with me in the hospital. They didn't check on me afterward. They don't want this house because it's my home. They want it because it's worth money." Rosa's eyes were shining. "But I haven't done anything to deserve. You saved my life. You stayed when no one else would. You've shown me more kindness in 2 months than my own kids have in the last 10 years. I reached across the table and took her hand. You don't have to accept, but I want you to know that's what I'm going to do. I've already talked to my lawyer. That last part wasn't true yet, but it would be. Rosa was crying now, quiet tears sliding down her cheeks. What about your children? They'll fight this. Let them try. It's my property, my decision, and I'm making it while I'm still of sound mind. I smiled. My lawyer will make sure it's ironclad. Eleanor, you've given me something I didn't think I'd ever have again. You made me feel like I matter, like my life has value beyond what I can provide or what I can leave behind. My voice cracked. That's worth more than any house. We talked for hours. I told her my plan. I'd transfer the deed but continue living here as long as I was able. She'd inherit the property when I passed, or if I needed to move into care, we'd work it out together. No strings, no expectations. Just two people who'd found each other when they both needed it most. The lawyer's appointment was the following Tuesday. Rosa insisted on coming with me. Are you absolutely certain about this? Attorney Morrison asked, peering at me over his reading glasses. This is a substantial asset. Your children may contest the transfer. I'm certain, and my children can contest all they want. This is my decision. He nodded slowly. All right then. I'll draw up the papers. It took 3 weeks for everything to be finalized. 3 weeks during which I didn't tell Jessica or Michael what I was doing. They called occasionally, always circling back to the same topic. When was I going to list the house? Had I contacted a realtor? They'd be happy to help coordinate the sale, of course. Happy to ensure I got a fair price. Happy to collect their inheritance while I was still alive to see them do it. The deed transfer was completed on a Thursday. Rosa cried again when Morrison handed her the paperwork. I took her to lunch afterward, to the little Italian place where Tom used to take me on our anniversary. What do I do now? Rosa asked, still clutching the folder like she was afraid it might disappear. Now you live your life, and I live mine. And we both know that this house will go to someone who actually gives a damn about the person who lives in it. 2 days later, Jessica showed up again. This time, Michael was with her. They both wore the determined expressions of people who'd rehearsed their arguments. Mom, we need to talk, Jessica said. This has gone on long enough. I let them in. Made coffee I knew they wouldn't drink. Sat them down at the kitchen table. Michael started. We've been patient. We've given you time to process everything, but you're not thinking clearly about your future. We found a wonderful community in Asheville, Jessica added, sliding a brochure across the table. Independent living, beautiful grounds, a full activities calendar. You'd love it. And we've already talked to a realtor, Michael continued. Someone who specializes in estate sales. She thinks we could list within a month and have offers within a week. I looked at the brochure, at my children's eager faces. At the future they'd planned without ever asking what I wanted. No, I said simply. Jessica's smile faltered. Mom, I'm not selling the house. I'm not moving to Asheville. I'm not doing any of it. Michael's jaw tightened. You're being selfish. We're trying to help you. Help me, or help yourselves. That's not fair, Jessica said. We've been nothing but concerned about your well-being. Really? Where was that concern when I called you from my kitchen, having a heart attack? Where was it during the 16 hours it took you to get to the hospital? Where has it been for the last 10 years while you've both been too busy to visit your own mother? They exchanged glances. Jessica recovered first. We have lives, Mom. Careers. Families. We can't drop everything every time I almost die? Silence. I'm not selling, I repeated. This conversation is over. Michael stood up. Fine. Be stubborn. But don't come crying to us when you can't afford your medical bills or your property taxes, or when this house falls apart around you. I won't. They left. Doors slamming, tires screeching, the tantrum of adults who'd just realized they weren't going to get what they wanted. I sat alone in the quiet kitchen and felt nothing but relief. Rosa came by that evening, as she often did. I told her what had happened. Do you think they'll come back? She asked. Eventually, when they need something else. That's what my children do. They show up when they want something. I'm sorry, Eleanor. Don't be. I'm not. I meant it. I'm tired of feeling guilty for disappointing them. Tired of trying to earn love from people who only see me as a resource to be managed. Rosa reached across the table and squeezed my hand. We sat like that for a while. Two women who'd found family in the unlikeliest of places. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. Jessica's handwriting. "Mom, we need to discuss your finances and your will. Call me." I didn't call. Instead, I called Attorney Morrison and made one more appointment. "I want to update my will," I told him. "Everything goes to Rosa Garcia. The house, my savings, my life insurance, all of it. And your children? They get nothing." He didn't argue. He'd seen enough families destroy themselves over money to know better. The new will was signed and notarized within the week. I put a copy in an envelope and tucked it into my desk drawer. Insurance, in case Jessica and Michael showed up demanding answers. They did, 3 weeks later. Both of them, unannounced, walking into my house like they still had a right to be there. "We need to talk about your estate planning," Michael said without preamble. "Do we?" "Mom, please don't make this difficult." Jessica sat down uninvited. "We know you're upset with us. We know you think we don't care. But we're still your children, and we need to have this conversation." "What conversation? About what happens after you're gone? About who manages your affairs if you become incapacitated? About," she paused, measuring her words. "About your will." There it was, the real reason they'd come. "You want to know if you're in it," I said. Michael had the grace to look embarrassed. Jessica didn't. "We're your children," she said. "Of course we're in it, right?" I stood up slowly, went to my desk, pulled out the envelope. "You want to know about my will? Fine. Read it." I handed the envelope to Jessica. She opened it eagerly, pulling out the crisp, legal papers. Michael crowded beside her, reading over her shoulder. I watched their faces change. Watched confusion turn to shock, turn to fury. "What the hell is this?" Michael's voice was strangled. "It's my will, as you requested. You're leaving everything to your pharmacy delivery person?" Jessica looked up at me like I'd lost my mind. "Are you insane? Has she been manipulating you? Taking advantage?" "Stop." My voice was steel. "Rosa hasn't manipulated anyone. She saved my life. She's been there for me when neither of you could be bothered to answer the phone. So you're punishing us?" Michael's face was red. "You're cutting us out of your will because we have jobs? Because we couldn't drop everything for you? I'm not punishing you. I'm rewarding someone who actually deserves it. Someone who showed up. Someone who cared." Jessica's hands were shaking. "This is insane. You can't. We could fight this. Contest it. Get you declared incompetent. Try it." I met her eyes. "I'm completely sound of mind. My lawyer will testify to that. My doctor will testify to that. You'll lose, and you'll waste money on lawyers for nothing. You're doing this to hurt us," Jessica whispered. "No, sweetheart. I'm doing this because you hurt me first, and I finally realized I don't have to keep pretending it doesn't matter." They argued, threatened, pleaded. Michael said things I won't repeat. Jessica cried angry, tears that dried up as soon as she realized they weren't working. In the end, they left. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I'd made the right choice. Rosa found out about the will a month later when I told her over coffee. She cried, like she always did, and tried to argue that it was too much. "It's not too much," I said. "It's exactly enough. You gave me back my dignity. You reminded me that I'm worth more than the sum of my assets. That's priceless. Your children will hate me. My children don't know you well enough to hate you. They barely know themselves." She laughed through her tears. "What did I do to deserve you? You answered the door when I needed someone most. Sometimes that's all it takes. We sit here now, in my kitchen, Rosa's kitchen, really, though she insists it will always be mine, and I think about what family means. Not the family you're born into, but the family you choose. The people who show up, who stay, who see you as a person and not an inheritance." Jessica texted last week. A brief message. "Hope you're doing well." I didn't respond. Maybe I will eventually. Maybe we'll find a way to rebuild something. though I doubt it will ever look like what it was, or what I once hoped it would be. But that's okay, because I'm not alone anymore. I have Rosa, who stops by 4 times a week now, who brings her granddaughter to play in my backyard, who's teaching me to garden and doesn't mind when I forget which plants are which. I have a family. It's just not the one I expected. And you know what? That's more than enough. My chest doesn't hurt anymore. The cardiologist says my heart is healing nicely, but I think there's more to it than that. I think when you stop pouring love into people who won't pour it back, when you stop bleeding yourself dry for those who won't even notice you're empty, that's when real healing begins. The pain hit me like a fist to the chest that day in my kitchen, but I survived it. And what came after was so much better than what came before. Some days, Jessica's words still echo, just a house. She was wrong. It was never just a house. It was a choice, a stand, a final act of love for myself. And I'd make the same choice again.